This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free, and it goes to Gibbs wide.
First time we've seen them attack them, and there's Francis! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robinson do. Taylor one, he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic! Here's Bob Williams. He's through here! And in the end, Forrest will say it doesn't matter how you play as long as you win it. Yeah!
Hello and welcome to Red Side of Trent, here to discuss the attacking force of our squad. Going through the subject along with a few other bits and bobs is returning guest Danny Tring. Danny, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. How's yourself?
Yeah, all good. 2-goal scoring hero for our charity game. All the pictures are out with some sort of proof, I guess. And obviously regular Reese Lane. Reese, how are you, mate? You all right?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you. We've all missed Forest a great deal. That's why I've done about 1 million episodes in this week. So I'm
steam ahead for the Euros, mate.
Yeah. I know you are, but I just let's put them to one side. They're not playing yet, and they're going through too much trouble with not picking Tyreek Mitchell. I'm really annoyed about that. Weirdly. So this episode is going to be heavily focused around our attack and reviewing of each player and kind of where we can fill gaps in, because I do think there is a massive leak in terms of lack of depth, and I think we can all agree on that. Reese, I wanted to start with yourself first. What did you rate it overall in terms of how we attacked games last season? Because I thought, considering we had to deal with Chris Wood for the whole season and no one kind of thought he would do what he did, I think it went better than expected, you'd say.
Under Nuno, definitely. I think under Steve, we relied on Tyro too much, hence why he kept getting injured, because we rushed him back every time. And now he's obviously going to be known as a bit of a crock, because, the proof is in the pudding. He's had a lot of injuries with us. Wood under Cooper, it just didn't work out at all, did it? And, thankfully for us, when Nuno did come in, we had to use Chris Wood, because, it didn't work with Origi. Ribeiro was far too young. That was just a waste of time for me. I said that when we signed him. He's still a young kid, isn't he? And thankfully for us, it worked with Chris Wood. He probably played a lot more than he expected to. And the goals he scored for us were monumental in us staying in the league. So there was a definite improvement going forward under Nuno, for sure. Going forward into next season, it's clear that we need, some more options in that area, whether that's because Wood can't play probably the amount of games he did last season. And also, you also kind of can't rely on Tyro now, can you, if we was to keep him with his injury record. So we definitely need some more reinforcements as in the striking options, for sure.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit. Danny, did you think it kind of affected Steve Cooper's plan with Tyro getting injured again so early on? Because he got off to an absolute tremendous start. I think he broke the record, didn't he, for most goals in consecutive games for Forest, right at the start, where he scored in the first few games, didn't he? He was absolutely on fire. Yeah. That goal against Man United where he outsprints Rashford, I just it's absolutely ridiculous.
I was there, and when they come running towards us, I'm thinking, what is happening here? It was literally.
And I still thought he was going to miss.
Yeah, no, it's one of them. It's like, for me, we was too reliant on him, and it's all right saying it. Like it got to the point last season, and it was down to him that we stocked up. I know people have varying opinions on Awoniyi, but for me, he doesn't come back from injury. We go down that season. The teams that went down, Leicester, no one was scoring for him. Southampton, no one was scoring for him. I know we're going on to him later, but they had Che Adams up front. Then you've got Leeds, who were struggling for goals. And we had one who come in and found the best form of his time at the club. And it kept us up. And then we rolled into the next season. He got injured at Leeds friendly, didn't he? When we at the start of the season. So he still didn't really have a full pre-season because he got injured there. I don't even think he played in Eindhoven or anything. And then he come on off the bench at Arsenal, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then he come into that game, looked sharp, and then he looked really sharp. But going on to the Cooper thing, I do think it was one-dimensional. It was, and you can't play like that because the fact is, we weren't scoring from nowhere else really at that time. And we'd like to say we're not really a threat from set pieces. You look at teams that are fighting at the bottom, like your Evertons and your teams like that, they are a threat from set piece. We wasn't. So, yeah, it did hinder him. Do I think if he'd have stayed fit, it'd have been masking over a few things? Yeah, I do, because I do think it wasn't a case under Cooper as we'll try and catch him and try and score the one chance that we do get. Whereas under Nuno, it seems to be a lot more, you're getting a lot more chances. Yeah, we're a bit more open, but I'm all for it.
I mean, I don't know what the difference is. And I mean, both of you, Danny, I'll start with you on this and then Reece, you can come in. But I don't know what the stats were before and after Cooper. But with Anthony Elanga's contribution this season, like what do you think was the major difference of getting like more out of like him, Hudson-Odoi, and Chris Wood, and then eventually Morgan Gibbs-White into that? Like what do you think he changed in terms of getting out? Because I think me and Reece had this actually argument throughout the whole season about playing a 2 or a 3 midfield. It was shoehorning Gibbs-White out wide. Do you know what I mean? I think that's probably the one major difference he made, wasn't it?
I think that's where Cooper lost it, genuinely. I think it was playing, he signed Gibbs-White as a 10, played him the whole season as a 10, moved him out wide, and I thought he was struggling out there. I thought there were games where you're thinking you literally just played him because it's Gibbs-White on the right wing. You don't really want to be playing him, but because it's him, you're playing him there. You don't, I mean, it was keeping, obviously, Hudson-Odoi, it was keeping him out, and at the minute Nuno come in, what he did was, again, a belief. It was like your attacking players were there to attack. They had they did a lot of work getting to and from, up and down, but there was a majority of the work done in the final third or going into the final third. And I think that was because he trusted him. Whereas I always felt under Cooper, he was more concerned about them. And it was like, well, let's not let them break us down. Let's not let them break us down. Whereas under Nuno, it's like, well, the prime one was this game at Newcastle. It was literally like, right, he basically left Elanga up there and he had Wood up there. And he said to Gibbs-White, hit the channel, leave Elanga up there, just hit the channel. And it worked, and it worked, and it worked. And they didn't know what to do with it. And they still didn't know what to do with it. So, yeah, I think it's down to belief. But I know we conceded a lot more goals, but it was still like a solid structure. Do you know what I mean? We were still, like the stats say, in an open play, we were still solid. And again, it was a good platform to go forward. Fullbacks were bombing on that. It helped. Just everything in general, I think, lent toward more attacking play under Nuno than it did under Cooper. And that frees up your better players because they're not midfielders, are they?
No.
Hudson-Odoi and Elanga, they're not left and right midfielders. They are attackers.
Yeah. I mean, Reece, how did you think it all went? Because obviously we had this discussion about playing a 2 and a 3 and we're getting overrun in midfield. But I was quite pleasantly surprised about how, as Danny said, how attacking we were under Nuno. And I thought it works, really.
Yeah, well, I mentioned many times about Gibbs-White being on the wing. That was just a waste of time. And I mentioned that even in his player awards, that little spell he had on the wing probably stopped me voting for him as player of the season because he just completely isolated. Like, as a number 10, your role is picking up the ball from the midfield and driving at the defence and then trying to basically plug a through ball through the gaps to play in the striker. As a winger, you're fronting your men up all the time and trying to beat them for pace or, down the line. It's a totally different role. And like Danny said, that was part of Steve's downfall, really. I guess the caveat you could say is after, Brennan Johnson went and there was an injury to a winger, I think, wasn't there at that time. I think we always kind of needed another winger all season, really, to give that competition for Elanga and Hudson-Odoi. And when, Alanga had a few spells out of the team into with injury, you kind of, plug in a gap really with someone unnatural in there. Whereas if you had, we could have done with a left-footed right winger, couldn't we? They like to come in now rather than the traditional wingers. But so there was that. And when Nuno come in, at the start, it was, you just kind of knew what you was going to get. With Steve, you didn't really know what kind of way we was going to play. The 2 games he come in at the start, Newcastle, and especially the Newcastle game with United, it was 4-2-3-1. You knew exactly how we were going to play. We were going to spring on the counter, and like Danny said, Newcastle away being an example. You're leaving Alanga against Dan Burn. I know Dan Burn's done quite well for Newcastle, but he's 6'5" and he's a left back. He's not quick, is he? And this is why, with respect to him, England haven't looked at him. They'd rather play right back there or someone who's not fit there because, we exploited that. It's weird because we technically got less points, didn't we, than we did the season before last, his first season back. But when you watch the season overall, there's a lot better patterns of play, etc., than there was in the first season. I think the first season we kind of grinded a lot of results out, whereas last season we actually went toe to toe with a lot of sides who were probably better than us, and they just nicked it.
Yeah.
But it's not. There's a lot of times you watch Forest, and we've said this before, they're not far away from being, mid-table side. It's just them games. The problem for Forest was, we conceded stupid goals from set pieces pretty much every game, and how many 3-2s was he? Was he 7 3-2 losses last season? We're on the other end of them every time. If you can change that round and get, I don't know, one of them a draw and 3 of them into a win, it's an extra 10 points, for example. We were just the masters of his own downfall really last season. And I'm just kind of glad really that there was 3 absolutely terrible sides below us. And in the end, we technically finished 10 points clear of them, didn't we, in the end? So it's kind of like reset this summer. The disappointing thing is with the PSR rules, it seems like, you're having to sell your best player possibly, which is ridiculous. And we're going to kind of see what we can do in the market really. And again, you're paying for recruitment mistakes at the start of last season. The goalkeeper's situation, thankfully we rectified that with Sells, but you now got 2 keepers who you signed last summer on permanent for a few million each, and they're both surplus to requirements. So again, it's kind of every summer into it for us. It's a reset, and we see who we bring in, see who we can get rid of, and we kind of see how it go. But we're not, if we can keep the nucleus of the squad together, we're not dead far off from being like, a lower mid-table side, I'd say, personally.
Yeah, I mean, you make an excellent point about the styles of playing. Like, actually, when you look overall, I know we got less points, but it was a lot more exciting to watch. We got forward in blistering pace at times. I mean, I think overall, the stats say we were the 6th highest XG counter-attacking team in Europe, like behind the likes of, I've got the list here, so PSG at the top, Montpellier of all teams a second, Liverpool, Bayern Munich, Inter. We're above Real Madrid, Leipzig, Stuttgart, and Marseille. That's ridiculous. And if that doesn't tell you what type of team we are, then I don't know what does. And I completely agree with you on terms of like needing a left-footed right winger. I'm sure Danny will be eating on that as well.
Pretty much for me my number 1 target this summer. I know there's other areas to plug.
Yeah.
Obviously at the back, because we've had Felipe's retired and Barillo might get sold, and there's a couple of others, etc. But that would be my number 1 target. And just to add as well, like with obviously Steve, I know we're comparing the styles of playing that, but the relationship with the owner broken down, and when things like that happens, it's just you're kind of on a hard into nothing. It's just going to get to the point where we were literally discussing it on the pod, weren't we, every week? Is he going to get sacked this week? Is he going to get sacked this week? Are we 1 result from him getting a sack? And in the end, he'll get sacked. I think that will happen with Ten Hag at United. I know they've on about extending his contract and that they're staying on about him staying, but if he gets off to a bad start, they'll think about sacking him. That's football.
Yeah, and I mean,
unfortunately.
as the chaos at Forest reigns, we've been linked with another manager as well, and he rejected it. So there, it's all swings and roundabouts. Danny, I wanted to get your opinion on our wide players, in especially Anthony Elanga first of all. For 15 million quid to replace Brennan Johnson was an absolute steal overall at the end of the summer. I know he had his ups and downs. He was inconsistent at times, but what did he get? 14 or 15 goal contributions at the end? It's not bad going, is it?
Yeah, I think if you judge this season, I'd say it was a good season. I mean, like say, 15 million is a young lad. And the thing is with Elanga, it was his attitude when he come alive. It was like, I'm here, I want to prove myself. How many players have been in issues and it not worked out for them? Where they've been at one of the big four, big six, and they've gone and tried to leave him. Whereas he'll look at it, I think he'll personally think, I've had a good season here. Like, he'd gone from having that, because he had a spell, didn't he, for United, where when he first come on scene, he got in the Champions League, he was playing regular, and then he dropped off it. So he'd have thought, I've come from a big team, and I never got that impression from him. I thought he wanted to be here. I thought he knew what his job was, and he set himself personal targets at the start, and he reached them, I imagine. Because I can't imagine he'd have thought, I'm going to come here first season, struggle inside. What is he, 21, 22?
Yeah, something like that.
And I'm going to get 14, 15 goal contributions. I don't think he would have, if he were honest. I think he'd have been thinking 10. I'll get 10, but no. And is a threat. If you're as fast as this it is, and he is sometimes it's a bit loose with the ball and is a bit erratic, but then sometimes it plays into his strength. It's like, if you don't know what he's doing, how do you know what he's doing? Think you were brilliant at it.
Mikel Antonio.
Sammy Amiobi, another one. Exactly the same. He was like tripping over his feet, come out with ball, and he could score. That's the thing. It's like, you look at certain players, it's like, he had the Chelsea goal, cracking finish. So it's one of them. It's not like, you can't mark him, let him do what he wants to do, because he will actually score. So yeah, I think he had a good season. I think he had a spell when he come back from injury. I think he wasn't quite at it. But I'd back him in the foot race against anyone. I would. I'd back him to go. It's like when he gets going and he opens up. I mean, Newcastle at home, he was good, wasn't he? He was good Newcastle at home. And like I say, you've got that. When you've got the pace and you can score, and is strong, is eager. I think it might be maybe too fit for his own good. That might be what his muscle trouble is. Because I mean, he's got muscle on muscle, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's so quick. Have you seen that video where he's like in the gym and he's doing the quick feet or whatever? I'm like, what the hell? It's like Sonic.
He is. He's an athlete. That's all right. And like I say, I think what he'll get more. He'll make better decisions as he gets older. He's a bit rash, but you go back to it, he's young. If he starts ironing out them silly mistakes, I mean, you can only go back to his last game, and the ball for Wood. Everyone wants that. If you're a striker, you want that. That's exact. You can't ask for more. Like, there's no one can tell him there, you could have done this. He's literally beat his man, whipped a ball in, and you can't miss it. It's like, because he ain't got time to think, Woodham. It's come at him. It's like, all I've got to do is connect with the ball. And that's why, I mean, Wood was struggling. But that was that good, the ball for him, that he was going to score it. There was no way he was going to miss it, because the ball was that good. It was that quick, that in a perfect position, across your body. So as a winger, what more do you want? Yeah, he's going to, if he gets more consistent, but then it's again with Forest, are we going to have a player who's going to play like that 30 games a season? We're not. And if he does, then he's not going to be with us long, is he? Look at Murillo, like, he's been touted for 60, 70 million. I think he's worth that. I love him. But it's been one of the worst defences in the league, but he's been consistently good. He has. And I know it stats, whatever, but on an eye test, I think if you ask every Forest fan, I don't think you'll find a Forest fan that says about Murillo, no, he's not good enough.
Oh, you will. You will.
Yeah.
There'll be someone playing devil's advocate somewhere just to try and boil
I
someone's
know a
blood.
few off Twitter. I'm not going to mention the names.
Yeah. But if you could like pin down an area that you think Anthony Elanga definitely has to improve on, like I mean there is a few, but if you had to just say one, what area would you say in the summer if he could like really improve, it will take him to the next level?
I think variation. I think if he could vary it a bit, is like I say, it's erratic, it's rash. It's almost like his legs are going too fast for him. Do you know if you just had a minute, took a breather, look, sometimes you just done them little, maybe like changing, like I say, variation, come inside, go outside. But he knows he can beat someone on the outside. So if he starts working on coming inside and being a bit more comfortable with the ball, it's like not like, because it can be a bit like Octata with him at times. But he has got it. He has got it shows it. I mean, the goal against Chelsea, the little interplay with Gibbs White for Hudson-Odoi, is like it can do the little one-touch thing, and he can. So there's definitely a player there. And like I said, I'll just go back to variation. It's like you go on your best wingers. It's like there wasn't just. I mean, when Sterling's at his best, it was a similar sort of type of play, a bit erratic, a bit. When he's at his best, you don't know if he's coming inside, you don't know if he's going outside. He can beat you, he can score. And he can. I mean, he even scored at Headed into Elanga. He's got all attributes to. So yeah, I'd just go more variation. So he's not constantly looking to just beat players with his pace. Maybe try and just get a bit more composure and variation, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it'd be composure. I mean, the amount of chances he missed last season, and then like he'd have the same chance again in the same game or whatever, and he might score. But like, yeah, there were so many times where he missed big chances. Like the one against Liverpool at home springs to mind before at 0-0. If he buries that, I think we win that game. I really do. Newcastle at home, he missed one and then went and scored the next one. Do you know what I mean? He misses a lot of chances, but it's good that he's getting in there. And I completely agree with you, Danny, on terms of his attitude when he come, because you think, oh, I've come from Man United, you think he'll be a bit big time, but actually, like, really embrace the opportunity. I think the squad age really helps with that. Like Gibbs White, Hudson-Odoi, Danilo, even Yatesy to an extent, they're all quite similar age. They're all between like 20, 26 years old. Do you know what I mean? So they've all probably got a little bit in common in terms of like they've come from that generation of people.
Hudson-Odoi same, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Reece, we'll move on to Hudson-Odoi because I think Danny actually hit the nail on the head on something we've mentioned throughout the entire season: variation for Hudson-Odoi. But as we've repeated many times, £3 million, you can't really grumble.
Oh, been an absolute bargain, hasn't it? I mean, if he did nothing again ever for the club, you've had £3 million worth, haven't you? Hence why, he's been linked with Tottenham, and there's a couple of other clubs apparently, weren't they, according to Sky. He's one, he come in on the last day of the window, didn't he? So again, his pre-season it looked like for quite a while he was going to go to Fulham. So he's one, as I've said before, who could benefit from a full pre-season with us, I think. Hopefully his head's still with us, because obviously I know he's a London guy, so hopefully with these links there isn't anything to that and you think, I can move back down there. But he did actually say when he joined that he was happy to kind of get away from London. So hopefully he can basically, what you want from Hudson-Odoi is just to carry on how he ended last season, really. I think that's all you can kind of ask. It's his trademark, isn't it, to cut inside and whip it into that far corner. But at the minute, most teams can't seem to stop it. But when that isn't going to come off for him, like probably the Everton game away is the example I can think of. Although, he should have won a penalty in that game, for example. Can he get it onto his left? Can he start to provide some more assists as well? One assist isn't very good, is it, for a winger, really? I mean, you look at the one assist he did get, it was a brilliant assist, Brentford away, right on the money. All Wood had to do was basically glance it into the corner, didn't have to put any power on the ball. So just more of the same, really, from Hudson-Odoi. It'd be nice to bit more variation, like Danny said, for Elanga, and if he can improve the assists and he can have a real good pre-season and play for us how he did at the back end of last season, then yeah, it'll be a joy to watch again, won't it, for him?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know if this really surprised you or because it definitely did take me aback, but his work rate, how good he was at terms of like out off the ball, he worked his socks off. And I was really shocked by that because I just thought, again, like what Danny said about Elanga, you've come from a big club like Chelsea in terms of Hudson Odoi, you kind of think, oh, will he think this is too big time for him? But actually, even under Nuno, especially, I thought bloody Nora, that he runs, he covers some grass. I mean, I don't know if you lot remember, but against Crystal Palace, he had a right battle with that Daniel Munoz. And at one point, they were both in the right back spot because he was running after him to get the ball back, and he did. And I was like, this guy really wants to be here, which I thought was really impressive.
If they want to get back to where they've come from in terms of the level they've been at with United and Chelsea, then they can't just jack it off and think, oh, I'm going to get back to that level by basically being, I used to play for Chelsea and I used to be in the England team and I'm a Swedish international and I used to play for Manchester United. I mean, I love watching Hudson Odoi. He gets you on edges. You see it every time. For me, when he's running at players, you always think something can happen. Not every time it does, of course not, but you always think, yeah, he's a real threat. And once he gets that yard to get it onto that right foot, and you're thinking, here we go, can he whip it into that far corner, which is, he keeps seeming to do at the back end of last season. So just more of the same from him really would be absolutely lovely. I mean, there was obviously talk on Twitter about selling him. What would you value him at? I mean, a few were saying like 20, 25 million. Not for me. I want to keep him. I don't want. I just want to keep him. I think he's worth more than that to us, to be honest. I mean, that's my opinion. But hopefully he stays, and hopefully we can see more of the same from him.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely adore him. Like, I think he can. I think that trademark of cutting in, if he gets that on the money, it can almost be like, oh, Robin-esque, where you know what he's going to do, you just can't stop it because it's just too good.
I think something as well to touch on for him is that he'll want to. I know he might want to get back up the levels in terms of clubs to the top end of the Premier League, but he's been capped by England. If he had, the left winger at the minute, you're probably going to have Phil Foden out there in the Euros, but that's not really his position. And then you're back, Jack Grealish has not got in this time. If he can have some real form, he can maybe push his way back into at least the conversation for England.
Has he not changed allegiances now? I don't know if he has or not.
Oh yeah. There was that rumor wanted to Ghana, but I mean, if he doesn't, if he doesn't decide to do that, which I'm quite surprised would go down that route because he's still only 23, isn't he? Maybe if you get to like your mid-20s and nothing's kind of happening, fair enough. But we'll see. But if he chooses to play for Ghana, then he's going to be playing for them, isn't he? So be a chance for him to get to the 2026 World Cup with them.
Yeah, definitely.
The thing is as well with Hudson Odoi is he's done it all already, hasn't he? There, it's like I know you say that with the Ghana thing. Go wait till he's won Champions League, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Won Champions League, like you say, he's been capped by England. He might think of it. Same with the Forest. It's like when we was on about the move. He might look at it and think, he's done that. He's had the big contract. Was it was the rumour he won about 120 grand a week, wanted or something at Chelsea when he got the new contract. So he's had the big contract. He's played at the big club. He's won the biggest tournament you can. So if there's any, he's not looking at it from a point of, I think personally, yeah, he'd like to get maybe prove to himself that he's still at that level. But I don't think he'd be one that would be thinking, well, I need to move to this club to get at that level. Because like I say, he's had his cap. He's had his big trophies. All he's going to think now is personally. The only thing that he'll get better at is playing football. And it's like, you can't go, there's not another club he'll go to who he'd class as better move than us, where he's going to feature every game. Because it will feature for every game that is fit for us. It will.
Yeah, if he was to go to Tottenham, Son's naturally, I know they have played him through the middle, but he's more of a left-sided, winger, isn't he?
Yeah.
They've also, I know they've got Johnson on the other side and Kulusevski, and they've also got, that Solomon, I guess, to come back from injury.
Richarlison.
So he'd probably go Werner. So if that move did happen, which I think it's kind of been quashed now, hasn't it? But
Yeah,
it'd probably just be a squad player for them. Whereas, like you said, Danny, for us, it can be playing every week, and that's the mistake that Jed Spence made, really.
100%. It's like at any level. If you anyone will tell you, no matter what's it, if you're enjoying your football, it's like when you've been where he's been, he'll just be wanting to enjoy his football. He will. It might even take him a couple of years just to be like, yeah, this is where I need like. And I felt like after 6 months, like you say, that run, I think if that Palace game, if he has to do that in the first 2 games for us, he don't do it. I think once he found his feet and fans loved him and he was enjoying his football, they were doing the things that, like, that's something you do. And this sounds stupid, but it is. It's something you do when you're enjoying football. You're thinking, I'm going to track him because I'm not letting him beat me. Like, whereas when you're not, and you've just come and you've come from a club and it's like you're a bit big time, as they say. He'd be looking at that thinking, I'm not running there. Like, I'm not running there. But it was like, no, I want to prove to myself I can do it. I want to prove to the fans, because they're backing me, and I think he's enjoying it. I think Hudson-Odoi is a definite no to go for me. Watch him move now.
I think, yeah. I think the biggest thing for him, just to finish up on him, is he really overcome is probably his issues with his body, like that. Yeah. The whole Achilles injury he had, and obviously went to Leverkusen and didn't really do anything there, and it seemed like he had more problems. But this season he's come here. There's not been as much pressure because the price tag is so low.
No.
And then once he's got fit, he's got raring to go. He scores some lovely goals, and he's a lovely footballer to watch. And I hope he's here for a few years, because I absolutely adore watching him. And the link up with the next man we'll talk about is Morgan Gibbs-White. I thought towards the end of the season they started to really find each other a lot more, especially Gibbs-White to Hudson-Odoi. Like that, the goal against Fulham at home is a ridiculous through ball, and then Hudson-Odoi to like really slow himself down where you think, oh, the opportunity's gone, and he scored. But Gibbs-White moving into that central area, Danny, like we've already touched on it, was a huge pivotal moment within the season, and it really like accelerated his performances for us. How do you think Gibbs-White's felt this summer? Because obviously he got left out of the England side, and I think we all have our own opinion on that, whether he deserved to be at least part of the squad or not, because he did overall perform better than James Maddison. But he seemed to be a bit disappointed. Do you think he's in a headspace where he might say, well, one more season and I might look to try and push on to get in that England team? Or do you think he was kind of just a bit annoyed because he got overlooked when he'd had a decent season, or what?
I think if the move coming from him, he'd definitely take it. I do, 100%. I just think Gibbs-White strikes me as a player is very... What's the word?
He's driven, by getting up there.
Self-driven. He wants to be at the top of wherever he can get in his game, no matter who is. Like, look, I mean, look at I know the Wolves thing with his family and this, that, and other, but he's got no barrier in what he wants to do. It's like, well, I've left you. I'm going to make a scene of it. It's like, and I think if someone come into for us, say. It'd have to be, but say Newcastle come in or someone, and the money was there and we accepted it, I don't think he'd hesitate about Gavin. I don't, because at the end of the day, it is what it is. We all know it. The England setup, they are ego. Like you say, the Maddison situation. Maddison's not getting called up if he's not at Tottenham, and he's gone to Tottenham. If Gibbs-White was playing for Tottenham and had the numbers he had, he's going. Even if he didn't have the numbers he had, there's a chance he'd go, because like you say, he outperformed Maddison. So if he goes to a bigger club, he's going to definitely be looking at thinking, I'll get him with the England squad. And I think he wants to. And it's like, not like, we'd like to play for him. I'm thinking, no, he's thinking, like that tweet is, he's thinking, I should be there. I should be there. Personally, I don't think he is there yet for me. I think as good as he has, I think he goes through spells where he's not as effective. He does beautiful balls. He has nice little interchange
moments.
Moments. He plays in moments, and his goal scoring is nowhere near good enough. And we touched on it with Alanga. He's missed a lot of chances. And I'm talking like chances that you look and you think, a good number 10 in the Championship who's a goal scorer would score them. It's like this, and I'm talking like, I mean, there's been a couple where it's been fortunate where it's like it wouldn't gone in. Like, I think there was one where it's against the floor. So I think finishing wise is what lets him down. I know Maddison's had his injuries as well, so it's unfair. I get the comparison with Maddison, but I think if he was to look at it himself, I don't think he's ready yet. I don't. And I think maybe going to another club, a higher club, he'd probably see that where he is. Because if you're playing with better players, you'd be pushed. Because he's never going to be pushed at Forest at the minute. It's not. It's like we've tried bringing in players to push him, and they've literally just fell off the cliff, haven't they? Scarpa, prime example.
Yeah.
And so. No,
I mean, my only argument with it is like you look at Palace and they're probably the most represented side in the England setup. But my then other argument is Eberechi Eze, who plays in a similar position, can also play out wide, whereas Gibbs White can't. He simply can't. We watched it. I thought he could do a job like left wing at something. I watched him right wing for Palace, and although he had that one glorious chance, he was so ineffective. It was unbelievable. So yeah, that's my take on it. And then like you look at who we've got in the England setup, you've got Bellingham and Foden in that position. They're like miles ahead of him. They're miles ahead of anyone. And Palmer, had a great season. Absolutely.
So yeah, it is. It's like you say. It'll end the day. It'll come down to what he wants, not what we want. It will come down to what he wants, and I'm fair play to him and what he chooses. For me, it's like
Reece, do you expect him to be here next season, or because I personally do, because I think the money we'll want will be too much at the moment.
Yeah, and it's Newcastle have apparently got to sell players as well, haven't they? Which this is a crazy nature of football. They've got the richest owners in history, and they've got to sell players. No,
they could sell a few hotels.
Well, I don't think they've got them, have they? Unfortunately,
yeah.
They could have to sell the Time Bridge and that to some Saudi consortium. I'd expect him to be here next season. I think he's got a young family. I'm talking about off the pitch now. He seems really settled, and I'm not sure who it might have been. Dan Taylor who said he seems quite good. That he's the main man in terms of I know Yates is captain, but he's also been captain quite a lot this season. I think a lot of when he's in that 10 role, most of our attacking play kind of goes through him, doesn't he? Especially through the middle, of course. And yeah, he is. He's a great player. I agree with Dan in terms I would like to see a few more goals out of him. My gripe for that would be I just think he needs to pull the trigger a bit more at times. I know he has he does say I like assisting, which is a number 10, yeah. But there is some times where, like, you look at the Manchester United goal, which was a fabulous strike, just get on the edge of the box, pull the trigger a few more times. If you launch one into the Trent and every now and then, it happens. But no, I'd expect him instead. I don't want him to be sold. It'd have to take a significant offer, especially with the money we've brought him for as well, to even be thinking about it, because he's a massive player for us. If there is going to be a big sale this summer, it's going to be probably Murillo, isn't it? Because you've only brought him for just over 10 million rather than, the 25 with all the add-ons for Gibbs White. And to be honest, I think he's easier to replace than Gibbs White. I think you'd be a lot of pressure for a number. Say if we did get rid of Gibbs White, there'd be quite a fair bit of pressure for a new number 10, especially if we. I'm just thinking of Nathan's list, like Thiago Almada, who's Argentine but would come from the MLS. Be a lot of pressure on him straight away. Whereas with obviously Murillo, we've got other centre backs at the club who can kind of come into that role already. So whereas Gibbs White, you're not going to chuck Aguilera in there, are you? So
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he'll stay. I think it'd take a significant offer for Forest to even think about selling him. And as well, like I said at the start of the comment, he seems really settled, doesn't he? So yeah, hopefully another season in Forest shirt for him.
Yeah, I mean, Aguero got a nice assist for Costa Rica the other day. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
against a load of
intrigued.
farmers.
I'm intrigued to see like what his progress is like, because obviously went to Bristol Rovers, had a really good start and seemed to do well when he come back from injury for a little bit. But I think he needs another good loan, like a good loan in the Championship or at least top end of League One, where he's going to play a hell of a lot. Because
Yeah, I think
unfortunately, I can't really see a role for him at the club at the moment. Unfortunately,
no, I think that's the key, is getting that good loan into. We was kind of guilty of this when Alex Martin went to Sheffield Wednesday. We all thought, yeah, what a brilliant loan that was. It ended up being a disaster. He's then, he went to Kortrijk, I think it was in Belgium. He's been at Port Vale, and now he's just, on.
was getting released, didn't
he? No, I think he's still contracted, but he's pretty much.
Blimey.
I know it sounds sad because he's still a young player, but he's pretty much on the scrap heap, isn't he? You're talking like you're looking at teams like your Notts Counties, your Mansfield's probably looking at him. Whereas a couple of years back, he was playing for us as a squad player in the Championship. So, yeah, it's about getting the right loan for young players, because we've discussed this before. I know we have with Christian Adam. You get a wrong loan for a player, and it can just set him back.
Completely.
Phil Foden's the best example, isn't he, of how well managed he was. Pep, all the media was like, he needs to go out on loan, he needs to go out on loan. Look at him now, look. He's just won Premier League Player of the Season because his young players been managed correctly. There's so many young players who've got all that potential when they're young, but they just don't get managed correctly, and the career goes down. It just goes down the path. So, whatever move we do decide to do for him, it needs to be the right one. I mean, the Bristol Rovers one, like you said, Adam, sounded good. He started off well. It's a shame he got injured. And it needs to be somewhere where he's playing every week, really. If that was to be, a mid-table League One team, Bristol Rovers, what they are, then if he's going to be playing every week and one of their better players and they want him there, I think that wouldn't be a bad move.
I wonder what that language barrier would have been like.
Slight bit of Southwestern with Costa Rica. Yeah.
South American farmer. Let's just finish up with like strikers. I know we've mentioned about Awoniyi's injury record and everything, and he's been linked to West Ham, Danny. Do you see that move materialising, or do you think this is kind of like maybe the last kind of pre-season we might give him? Because he technically, I think he must have got a pre-season in the first season and then got injured. And then this year, obviously, he's been hampered by injury. But what situation do you think he's in, really?
It's an hard one. It's a hard one. It's like, for me with Taiwo, it's when he is fit, and I know it's a big when and a big if. There's hardly anyone better than him. There isn't. And I know people say it. It's like, even when he wasn't fit, when he come back, he scored a great goal against West Ham, bullied the best centre-half, arguably the best centre-half in the league, and scored at Arsenal. And that's him when he's playing with basic one leg. And I know, so I can see like West Ham will definitely gamble on someone like him, because, I mean, I think he's scored nearly every time he's played against him.
Yeah, 3 times.
Yeah, so I could see there would be definitely solid interest in him, 100%, because he's a number 9 who scores goals, and it's like, we can all say what we want about his old up play and like even his fitness. It's like, his goals and Wood's goals are the reason we've stayed up. And it's like, you look at, I think, what's he scored? Yeah, season.
Scored 6 goals.
6 goals, 3 assists. That's like, you're looking at it and you're thinking, I mean, I don't know who other people like Antonio I got here. He scored 6 goals, 2 assists. It's like, and he's played half at season. So for me, I wouldn't get rid of him. I wouldn't, because it's one, are you going to replace him? And it's, if we can keep him fit, and it's like, if you can give him a pre-season, are we realistically, like, if I said to you now, realistically, a fit player, who are you going to go and get that's better than Taiwo for Forest, who is fit? And I know it's the big question, it's the fitness thing, and that's what the issue is.
Yeah.
But it's like, realistically, I don't think you're going to go and find, for us anyway, you might find, I've been looking through, like, when you asked me to do a bit of research and what's it, and I'm looking, and you're looking, the best strikers in Europe, top goal scorers other than your Mbappe's and your Haalands. You've got like Garassi, who scored 28 goals, who's linked to every man and his dog now.
Yeah.
You've got that Dobrik, who scored for Girona, scored 24 goals, 8 assists. He's linked to Chelsea, linked to all your Champions League. It's like, who are you going to... There's such a lack of natural strikers. You've got Chelsea, who I don't think are confident in Jackson. Liverpool, I don't think are confident in Nunes. Arsenal ain't got a number 9. So all them three are shopping for a number 9. So anyone who's really going to come in and hit the ground running, we're not in that market. So for me, I'd stick with him. I would, and I'd just hope a good pre-season. Hope he can get through it. Manage him well. Like I think was it you or Reece said, Cooper. They were very reliant on him. It's like we ran him to the ground because with what you were saying, Adam, with Cooper, he didn't know what to do if he didn't have him.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've got to play. Like we all know, last season, season before, when he bought him off, even though he couldn't even run, he bought Ayew on, and just I know that's Ayew, but it literally he didn't have a plan B for him not playing. So if he can manage his minutes, Wood did his job. Get someone in. I think like I don't know if you've got to go on to it, but with the Che Adams thing, it's like for me, he's probably the market we're going to be in.
Yeah, freebies
and players who are going to improve the squad.
At least with Che Adams, like he's 27, knows the area because he's played at the beloved Ilkeston town that we all know and love. But at least like he's played in the league. He's still young. He's still fairly young. I thought he was about 30, you know. But he can play out wide. He can do a job through the middle, and he's fairly fit. Like he's very rarely injured. So at least I know he's not like the best goal scorer or anything, but at least you've got an option there, and he can rotate with Wood or Wunye.
Yeah.
And I know it's not very glamorous. So the thing is, our number 9s, I know like Wood scored loads of goals, but I feel like we could turn into that team where your wingers and your number 10 score more goals than your number 9. Yeah. That's how we set up, aren't we, really? I don't know what 100%. You think, Reece.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at that WT analysis. He did a strikers list the other day we could look at. So he put, I think it's Pavlidis from AZ Alkmaar, who
I've seen him. Yeah,
scored a lot of goals this season. But as he said, the Eredivisie, that transition to the Premier League is a bit of a risk. You've seen that with a lot of the fan base with Sangare this season. He then went on. There was a striker for Dynamo Kiev, who's still quite young, 22. So again, a bit of a risk. And then you're looking at the obvious two which have been mentioned, which is Che Adams, who I think on a free wouldn't be bad business. He's quite versatile. Still at a pretty decent age. I mean, I couldn't believe he was only 27. I thought he was probably about 30. So that wouldn't be bad. But I know Wolves are obviously in for him. Brereton Diaz, not for me personally. I think that kind of ship has sailed. I think that's quite a dividing one, isn't there? There's quite a few people wouldn't mind Brereton Diaz back. And there's a few just think, I don't really want ex-players back, which is fair enough. And then the other 3 on his list was Adebayo, who I just doesn't think suits us really personally. I think he's very much a target man. Yeah. And Luton just basically used his height from set pieces and long balls last season. So it wasn't a shock when I saw Everton linked to him. He also mentioned Fofana, who's on loan at Burnley last season from Chelsea. He didn't do too bad for Burnley, but again, still quite young. And then the other one was mentioned was Eddie Nketiah, who, I wouldn't mind, but, you'd probably be looking at 20, 25 million maybe for him. And Forest really got money to spend. I'd imagine probably not. I mean, I'm in the same camp as Danny with Taro. His injury record's not the best. Yeah, again, he's another one who needs a pre-season. You're kind of relying on that, but unless, I guess the only issue with Tyro is if an offer was to come in. So I think we signed him for about £50 million. I think it was like 17 million euros, if I remember correctly. So if he signed a 4-year deal, he's now on our, he's basically on our balance sheet now at about 8 million. So if someone comes in with, say, 25 million, then you're booking like a £17 million profit on a player who's got an injury record. But the problem was that link to West Ham was, it seemed like David Moyes was a real big fan of him. They've obviously changed manager to Lopetegui now. So I personally expect Tyro to stay. Hopefully he can shake off these injuries and, he can give us a full season next year. But we do need somebody else regardless. I think that's pretty basic common sense into it for sure.
I think like now we know what Wood can really offer. I think, like I say, it gives us that bit more rotation. You can kind of look after him and wrap him up in cotton wool every now and then, and kind of utilize him against certain teams, can't you? Because Wood, like, he really surprised me with like his movement and his actual intelligence. He is a really, really intelligent striker. He does miss a hatful. I mean, he should have scored 20 goals towards the end of the season when you think about all them chances he missed after the Spurs one. I don't know what you were going to say, Danny. Sorry.
I was just going to say with Che Adams as well. It's like he scored 15 goals last season. We're going on. It's not like, I know we could talk levels and what's it, but it's 15 goals in Championship. It's if he hadn't been that yo-yo we see him as, like, I imagine it's that in between, isn't it? Can't quite cut it in the
Dwight Gale.
Yeah,
sure, grabbing.
Yeah, and but we're not signing him as a star striker. It's like, that's like I say what we were saying earlier. You go back to the season Southampton went down. He was their star striker. He was the one who needed to score for them, and I don't think he's at that level where you can rely on him. Whereas we're going to put him in. It's like Reece says, he can play in the 10, he can play out wide, he can chip in anywhere. So it's a no-brainer. It's like I said, the other team that's after him is Wolves, so it's not like he's being touted to go back down to the Championship. Yeah. I'd be more than happy if we got him on a free.
I mean, that's the key, isn't it? Like a free transfer. We've got to be shrewd in this market. We probably 100%. We're probably going to need I don't know, 8 players again, maybe. So you're not, when you look at the squad, because we've got a name, 25-man squad. So the budget's not going to be through the roof, is it? So you're going to have to make your signings like we did last summer with your Ola Einers on a free. Worked out perfectly.
I mean, the one player you said that the one position, you really reiterated, Reece, was a left-footed right winger, and I've had a look for loads of them, and it's so hard. It's such a tough market because ones that you want are going to cost you too much. To be honest, it's really difficult. I even looks at Morgan. Even looks at Morgan Whittaker at Plymouth, and actually, I think I've not watched enough of him to really say, but I know you see 19 goals, but actually I look at him statistically, and he's not actually that good.
Yeah, he's probably like a player you maybe look at like an Ipswich to look at, really.
Yeah,
I mean, I looked at. I know WT did a few. Marcus Edwards was one from Sporting, but it depends what Forest's like kind of transfer budget is, really.
Unless you wait after June the 30th and you go now.
We go on it. It's like, I know it's touching up with the Sangari situation. It's like you're going to put in a play, like you just said, realistically 20-30 million we're talking. If you Nketiah, they're going to go in and they're going to technically be seen to be replacing a Wood who scored, 14
goals. Yeah.
If he doesn't hit the ground running, we're looking and we're thinking, well, Wood scored 14 for us last year. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's like, so it is what you say. You've got to be careful. It's the player that we do sign, I can't see us going splashing. I think the big money will either be, I think it'll be centre mid. I do. I think if he doesn't trust Angari, I think he'll go big in midfield.
Well, we've been linked to that Florentino Luis, who I've spoke to about with someone else on the previous pod. So there's more on that. But I mean, the one person who I really like the look of, and I had a look at him. I mean, YouTube you can't really trust too much, but statistically, I looked at this guy called Ermedin Demirovic from Augsburg. He's only 26, just turned 26. Got 15 goals and 9 assists last season, playing as the number 9. He was a central attacking midfielder, and they've kind of like Bobby Firmino'd him into centre forward. And like what I liked about him was he could link up play and he let players go beyond him, if you know what I mean. But he could still score. And he was a big lad. He's like 6'2", I think he is 6'3". Let me just double check. 6'1". So he kind of suits the profile in terms of big target man, but has got a box of tricks almost. Because 9 assists is pretty good for a centre forward. So that's what I liked about him. But he could be Augsburg's best player. So
the problem is as well, we've signed quite a lot of attacking players who just haven't worked out. Last season, Origi was a waste of time. Ribeiro was a really young lad. The season before, Ayew was a waste of time. The big disappointment really is Dennis. Cooper Cooper didn't want him. I know that for a fact. But he just couldn't really get a tune out of him, or didn't seem to want to play him. And then that's kind of that ship has sailed now into with him. So he's gonna, that's what it said in the Athletic report, isn't it? So he's going to be probably hard to get off the books, really. Hwang, who we signed basically to be loaned out to Olympiacos, which was a waste of time, and Josh Bowler, who's never played for the club. Yeah, Josh Bowler, who's never played for us, and Lingard. I think most people said it was at the time, a bit of a novelty signing. If his wages are nothing, but again, that didn't work out, did it? So
we've having Rayner to an extent, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess the good thing with Rayner is that it pushed on Hudson-Odoi. I think was the big one for me. But again, you're right, Adam. That never really got going, did he, Rayner, at all? No. So there's been plenty of signings in them areas. It's just unfortunately, even your successors, which you'd probably say Taiwo has been with the goals he scored, he's had a lot of injuries. Chris Wood's been a success second half of the season, but it took him probably a season to get going, and the previous manager couldn't get a tune out of him, and it was someone who he wanted. So yeah, it's definitely an area we need to strengthen and make sure we actually get somebody in who's going to not be a waste of time, really.
This is the problem as well, because now Sirianos is our head of global recruitment or something like that. I can't remember what exact role is, but he's overlooking every club that Marinakis has got a hand in, and he always profiled athletic players. The problem is we've got is what you say, Reece. What budget have we got? It's whether we go.
But then we get a Marinakis junior surprise on deadline day, don't we?
I know. Pablo Dybala's definitely rocking up for 12 million euros.
No chance. I thought, tell you now, it'd be back to why.
Yeah. Also, you look at it. It's with the front four, it is you've got, in my opinion anyway, you've got 4 Premier League starters, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's we're not in a position where we've got to go, and we need, like you say, they need backup, because like you said, there's no option. There's no option coming off of the bench. But you are having to sign the players that are going to be replaced. It's basically took out the 11 are Premier League ready players. That's the positive you've got to take. You're not looking at, well, we ain't got a striker who can't score. We ain't got a 10 who can't create. We ain't got a winger who can't score or assist. We've got all that. It's just, like you say, Reece was saying with the rain, and we need players to push them on. So if they are having a bad spell, we've got someone that can come in and actually challenge him.
Yeah, and I think this is where Forest are taking lots of gambles within the South American market, and that's where I could potentially see someone coming from, because they're cheaper, because they want to push into Europe, and we're kind of going direct to the source, as Nathan Joyce has previously said on podcasts on the Copper Club. That's what we're doing now, because we can't afford to wait for them to do anything in Europe. It's kind of worth taking the risk almost, but. It's going to be a really interesting summer from all accounts, but I think getting support for that forward line is key, because like you say, Danny, when we're struggling, if Hudson-Odoi or Elanga or Gibbs White aren't on it, you need someone to come on and kind of be that spark. I'd love a Sapa or a Song to have a good pre-season and see what he does, but again, another one that needs a loan probably, because he's 19 and needs first team football.
Yeah, Dale Taylor will be going out. He's not going to cut it.
He didn't light up at Wickham, although he did score a good goal in the JPT final.
But Aguilera, he'll need a good loan. I think he's a good player, though. There's definitely something there with him.
Yeah, I like him.
I've seen enough from him to see bits where you're like, no, he's got it. And then there was all that pre-season with the training when they was abroad, and you've got all Felipe and players like that. They're not just going to say it for camera that is a quality footballer. They're not. And he's a big lad. I think, like you say, a good loan move. It's like you was on about the loan moves. Look at Keenan Davis. That one loan move to us made him worth 15 million quid. Well, that's
Spence the same.
Yeah, and then it is like you say, it's where you end up. It's all about the choices. And now, look, Davis, you wouldn't. I mean, what, he scored 1 goal last year. It's because
I don't even know.
It's not even getting the game. It's not like you say the move's not right. So
Because he's made of malted milks.
yeah. I know.
Well, chaps, I think this has been a very interesting conversation, and we'll finish it there. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more to go through if we sign any more strikers through the door. But I've really enjoyed it. I hope you two have.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you in the next one. If you've enjoyed it, drop us a like, subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one. Come on, you Reds.